Well, good morning. So welcome to episode 5. I can't believe it's 5 already, but that is what it is.
You're rolling.
Yeah.
You're rolling.
We're going. So, oh my God, can we talk about Vegas for a second? Have you been to Vegas in a while?
You know what? Vegas has changed dramatically since I started going in the early 90s. And I love Vegas, but 2 days in Vegas always seems like 2 weeks in Vegas.
I know. Oh, it really does. I always thought I loved Vegas too. I don't love it so much anymore. I took my little one, had never been before, and I said, let's drive down the strip, at night. Like, this is so exciting about Vegas. And she's like, looking around, and it's like Sunset Boulevard or Hollywood or New York. It's lost all its charm. The days of like the Stardust sign and the Sands and the Flamingo, all those really cool signs are gone. And it's just like monitors on top of Disneyland size hotels. It's just, I don't know. I miss the old Vegas.
It's the cheap way to go. If you don't want to buy a ticket to Europe, you can just stay on one street. If you don't want to fly 3,000 miles, you can see New York, you can see Paris, you can see everything right there. Go to Italy, right there on the same street.
Right. And I made the mistake of driving there. I haven't driven there since I can't even remember the last time I drove there. I will never do that again. I am not a road trip person. It was awful. So, but Vegas itself, we had a good time. We ended up mostly just hanging out by the pool because we didn't want to go walking around. And we went to that Meow World. Have you seen that? The Omega Mart?
No, I've not.
Oh, it's really cool. It's like an art exhibit, and it's like this world you walk in. It's like a market, and then there's you'll open a refrigerator, and it takes you into another world, and it's a trip. There were a lot of people there high on drugs. It was good people watching, I'll tell you that.
Well, Vegas has figured out how to keep you there, Nicole. The way they do it is obviously 2 lanes leaving, and it takes you forever to get back home. So, I mean, they know if you're going to leave, you better leave in the middle of the night, because those 2 lanes back home, for anyone who doesn't live in Los Angeles or in Southern California, it is hard to get out of Las Vegas.
It is. So anyways, we have a great guest today. We have Matt Felker, who is the executive producer and director for the Baywatch documentary, amongst a lot of other things that he does. But this is who I'm working with right now, and we're friends first. And a lot of you will probably recognize him. So let's bring him on.
Nobody's going to recognize me. That's fine.
Well, I wanted to ask you, which do you get recognized for more, being Stacy's mom or Brittney Spears?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, I think some people don't even realize I was in the Stacy's mom video. And then they sort of they'll see it on Instagram or some shit. They're like, wait, that's you. And I'm like, yeah, that was me 20 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I was friends with one of the guy that actually ran the camera at the casting agency. He was a guy that I knew from the gym. Super nice guy. I'm still friends with him today. And he's like, dude, just come in. Like, my friend casts all these music videos, and what they don't realize is they don't pay anything. People assume you're in these huge things, and they're like, they pay you $500. And it doesn't matter who you are either. You can be like the biggest star in the world, or you can be me, and you're still not going to get paid anything. So this guy, he sort of started bringing me in, and I became friends with the casting director. And then I did the Stacy. Well, no, I did a Celine Dion video first. And then I did a good job, whatever that is, like being a model in motion, whatever that means. And I guess just not being a pain in the ass is doing a good job. Not being a jerk and showing up on time and doing whatever you're supposed to do is doing a good job. So I did that one, and then I did the Dido white flag video with David Boreanaz. And then that was Joseph Kahn, who was a big director, who I'm also still friends with today. He was like one of the biggest music video directors, and we just became close. And he's like, this is my dude for this moment in time. Because after you get used too much, it's sort of game over, and they want to use the next guy type thing. But so I did that one. And then the Brittney Spears one was kind of the last one. And since we're on a podcast, I'll give you some texture to the story. So I was not the first choice. I was not the second choice. I was not the third choice. I was maybe the 4th or 5th choice for that. And it was really because I was friends with the casting director. So Brittney Spears originally wanted Brad Pitt, which was a stretch. And he was probably my age now, actually. And he was like, I'm too old. Like, it's just not appropriate type thing. And then he wanted Ashton Kutcher, and Ashton Kutcher turned it down. And then there was a different model guy who was like this shaved head stud named Christian Monzone, who was actually dating Pamela Anderson at the time, ironically. And she wanted him because she saw him in a Dolce & Gabbana ad. And Pam actually forbid him, I think. Or if it wasn't Pam, it was whoever his girlfriend was at the time, but he was dating Pam in that era. Wouldn't let him do the video. So he's like, can't do it. And then Colin Farrell said yes. And Colin Farrell was sort of on the up. It was like early 2000s. And he was in, I want to say Bangkok, filming Alexander. And I think he was just too fucked up and didn't catch his plane. So he never showed up. And Scotty, who was the casting director at the time, calls. He's like, hey, dude, like, can you get down to Universal in like 10 minutes? And I'm like, yeah. And he didn't even tell me what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just showed up, and like, she's there. She's like, hi, nice to meet you. Like, really nice. And I was like, whoa, fuck, where am I? Because I just arrived in LA. It's, you sort of get thrown in the trenches. And then 2 weeks prior, coming full circle to Baywatch, the first job I ever did was with Pamela Anderson. So
was it a Dolce & Gabbana ad?
No, it was a company that's now defunct. It's called Iceberg, and it was sort of like Versace.
Oh, right.
And David LaChapelle shot it, and that was literally my first week in LA. They're like, here's your address, you're going to Malibu. Didn't tell you what you're shooting, just said it's David LaChapelle, and just someone that just arrived to LA from Wisconsin. That doesn't mean anything to you. You're like, cool, photographer guy, rad. And then they gave me this little tiny black Speedo, and they're like, here you go, bro. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then they introduced her to Pamela Anderson, like with your nuts in a little thing, and you're like, hi. So, it was a weird, speaking of, doing the Baywatch thing, it was sort of a weird full circle how that sort of was my first introduction to Hollywood was working with her. So
Nicole, I got to ask him first. The Stacy's mom video, all right, for a guy that is like kind of every kid goes through it of going, who is the hot mom, the whole deal. The Stacy's mom deal, how was it perceived by your family, by your friends? Like, what did your friends say when they realized you were in this video?
My family just doesn't care. it means nothing to them. Dropping out of college and moving to Hollywood, they were sort of like, all right, when's he gonna come home? Like, that kind of thing. So it didn't really mean anything to them. And then, my parents are, Midwestern parents. They're like, well, great. How much did that pay? And I'm like, $500. And they're like, that's not a job. So, didn't get a lot of credit from my personal family, but my friends from high school, because I wasn't that far out of high school. Most of my friends were graduating college at the time. We were like 22, 23. And because we grew up, Fast Times at Ridgemont High wasn't really my generation. I was a little young for it, but we all watched it because it was a classic movie. So having the recreation of the Fast Times at Ridgemont High with the Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool, I mean, that was cool to people. And they were, they were impressed. I remember I had a high school girlfriend, and this story was relayed to me years later, and they were watching, I think it was like Making the Video or whatever they did at the time, MTV Making the Video, and they would interview you and, whoever the other actors or whatever was. And I was in it, and I was so dumb. I'm like, hey, I'm Matt, like super monotone, like, cause you're trying to be cool, right? You're like, I'm fucking in MTV. I gotta play this cool. And you're like, yeah, I'm just here. I'm just going to like rub her down and, no big deal type thing. And I remember a buddy of mine was sitting next to my high school girlfriend, who was now engaged to the guy that she dated right after me. And he looks at me and he goes, made the wrong decision, didn't you? And that was the most validating thing for me. Like, all right, I'm on the right track. I did what I needed to do. So yeah, that was sort of that. And people, I mean, it's funny. It doesn't really matter. And I think Baywatch actors get this. I think actors from, hit TV shows like 90210 and stuff like that. It really doesn't matter what you do afterwards. If it's one of those pop culture moments, no one cares. You're always that guy. Like, I will forever be the dude in the Stacy's mom video. I will forever be the dude in the, Brittney Spears video. And you just get to the point, you're like, all right, that's cool. And if somebody at this point, being in my 40s, it's like if someone still remembers it, you're sort of flattered type thing. It's not even really it's not like, but when you're in your like late 20s, you're like, oh, fuck you, man, I've done this and this, and I'm serious, type thing. So I don't know. It's all good. It's a little portion of pop culture history that really, I mean, I was at the tail end of it. Music videos kind of fizzled out after I did all those, and YouTube came on the scene, and MTV kind of, slowly declined. So it was cool to be a part of sort of the stuff that I saw growing up that I thought was really cool that actually drew me to Hollywood. So I remember talking to my my girlfriend at the time in LA, and she was probably about 8 years older than me, and she was a model, and she had kind of gone through the system and was out and had a real job. And she would always tell me these stories, and she had dated this guy that was in all the Aerosmith videos. And I was like, fuck, that guy's cool. Like, I grew up watching that guy. Like, if I could just be in a video like that, that's all I want. And then it actually,
Steven Dorff?
Not Dorff, the dude that went to jail, Dean Kelly, for like raping and pretending he was a photographer. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so it's like, never meet your heroes or know anything about your heroes type thing. So yeah, it was one of the things where you say it out loud, and I was like, shit, I should have aimed higher. That's all I got. All I got was the video. So, but yeah,
but that's a wild. That's some pretty big stuff to be on straight from Wisconsin to LA.
Yeah, and it's and no one knows it doesn't pay you shit. So it's sort of, you can sort of pretend. I think a lot of people, when they're not getting paid, but they're being sort of, I don't know, abused wouldn't be the word, but exploited maybe. On TV type thing, you don't get residuals for music videos. I mean, that video still plays. It's got, I think, both those videos have over 1 billion views on YouTube. Granted, there's other big, Tyson Beckford was in it, Martin Henderson was in it. It was a big cast. I was sort of the schmuck of the whole thing. But it's whatever. But that video alone, it was very bizarre, because when you're paired with people that are already successful, to the outside world, oh, he's with Tyson Beckford, he must be a supermodel now. And it just sort of like, it just happens, and you're like, but I haven't done shit. But it just, you get linked with those people, and they just assume that you're one of those people because you're in that company. So,
well, it was a good pool to be thrown into.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. MTV is, something I grew up with, and something that was, very influential to me. So to be a part of it, I think there was one point they used to do TRL, which, if you're younger than I am, you won't remember it. But I think I was out of the top 10. I think I was in 4 of the videos. So it was that's pretty cool, because people watch that, so it was cool.
No, I
didn't do anything for me later on. I got a bunch of random meetings that led to nothing, but yeah. So
would you go back and be in front of the camera? Which do you like better?
When you're a young person, people, it's ego. A lot of egos involved in it. I didn't come to LA I didn't come to LA to make money. I came to LA to like have a chip on my shoulder and prove to everyone back home that I could do something that they couldn't do. And I think I would say 65 to 70% of actors and models have that. I think there's probably 25 to 30% that are true artists, or someone like yourself that grew up doing it, and it's a job. For me, it was about, I was a very high level soccer player, and there's no sort of career path in the United States for soccer players. There still really isn't. It's a little better now than it used to be, but you win state, you're the best, team in your state and in your region. And, you could go play Division I soccer, which almost all of my friends did. And that's it. It's over. And it's not quite the same sort of down you have as a professional athlete, but it's pretty close, because your whole childhood is spent training, playing soccer, and preparing for the next level. And then you realize the next level is dead end, and you're not going to make any money. You're going to blow out your ACL, and you're going to be, maybe a soccer coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just was not something that I wanted to do. So for me, it was like, and I talk about this with Jeremy Jackson a little bit from the show. It's like, how do you recreate that high I was getting from athletics? And Jeremy Jackson says the same thing about when the show ended. How do you recreate the high you're getting from being on a TV show? And for me, the next step was, well, let's go to LA and see what happens. I didn't ever aspire to be an actor, because I think it freaked me out, and I didn't think I could actually do it. I didn't think I was comfortable enough with myself to actually, be in front of the camera, because it was weird enough to have to do auditions in your underwear and not even talk for, being a model type thing, let alone throw some words in there and you're like, fuck, this is hard. People like to talk shit about actors, but they actually don't realize how hard it is. Everyone thinks that anyone can be an actor because social media has sort of created this illusion that it's super easy. It's not. it's hard. It's a lot of work. You have to remember a lot of shit. You have to show up on time. It's super long hours. You work 5 days a week. You do ADR on Saturday, and it continues. It's hard. But going back, I never really thought I could do what I'm doing. And, I hit a point in about 2000. So the Brittney Spears video was 2004, probably about 2006. Social media had sort of started. MySpace was a thing. Friendster was a thing. I was very fascinated by it. I was able to sort of link myself into the cool crowd in Hollywood, without having to like go out and show up at all the parties. So I met like Nicole Richie, Paris Hilton, who were like big deals at the time. They were on The Simple Life and stuff like that. And I think I met Nicole Richie on Friendster, literally on Friendster, to throw it that far back, who became a friend later. And then I was sort of being sent out on castings. And, when you're a young person, you don't understand the business aspect to it. Like, I always want a billboard. I want to be in like Vogue. I want to be in a big video. Well, those don't pay. Catalogs pay. But to me, catalog was lame. Like, I want to be in a Target catalog. It's stupid, but it pays $5,000, type thing, not $500. So I was sort of frustrated with my agents at the time. And then I sort of saw that every single casting director and every single person that I knew was on these social media sites. So I'm like, what the fuck do I need an agent for? I have your Rolodex now. And I started, and that's one of the ways I put myself in the Brittney Spears video was through finessing a relationship online, which, everyone does now, but this is, 20 years ago type thing. And I wrote a movie when I was 25 about manipulating social media. And it was loosely based on my own life type thing. And, trying to meet girls online and all that kind of stuff, which at the time was unheard of. No one meets people online. That's scary. You're going to get murdered. But now everyone dates online. And I went out with that script to everybody, and everyone thought I was crazy, and everyone thought it was so far-fetched and it was too insider in Hollywood. And then a director by the name of Penelope Spheris optioned it. And Penelope started in documentary. She did a very famous series called The Decline of Western Civilization, which was about all the rock stars on the Sunset Strip before they became stars. It's like Axl Rose prior to being a star, the Chili Peppers, that kind of thing. And then she was sort of a rebel, and she tricked a financier to pay for that, saying she was doing a porn, and then went and did the documentary and then made the money back and gave his money back. But actually the person that put the money in thought she was making a porn video, which is pretty gangster for a young woman, back in, the 80s type thing. Is pretty cool. So she sort of fell into Wayne's World. She did Wayne's World and a lot of those Chris Farley comedies. She just got hired as a comedy director, just as, with an agent, sends you out, gives a pitch, got the job, and they were very commercially successful. So her career sort of veered into comedy, which she never really anticipated or wanted to do. And she optioned the script. She goes, I think you're a little crazy. This script is a little crazy, but I like it and I'm crazy. And let's make this movie. So she was involved with a financier at the time named Alec Goris, who's a billionaire. They own Paradigm and all kinds of stuff. So we were in pretty good hands with this thing. And she goes, I think it's really interesting if you play yourself, because it's sort of like this blurring of fiction and reality, and no one's really done it. And it's like you're using, like written scripted actors, but then you're actually the guy you're writing about. And then you're using archives from like Entertainment Tonight and like real stuff that I was on. So it's like this weird blurring of fiction and reality. And we got really far. We had a big showcase at the Toronto Film Festival, and then a guy by the name of Michelle Shane, who produced Catch Me If You Can, optioned it as well to be the producer, and then Penelope be the director. And we were in pre-production, and his daughter was murdered. Right down the street from where I live now in Malibu. He was picking her up from school, and she was across the street on Heathercliff and PCH, and a suicide driver, as he was across the street of PCH picking her up, drove directly into her and killed her instantly. So with that, obviously everything sort of paused, and the movie was never made ultimately, because of that. Because when stuff goes, regardless of the situation, I mean, Nicole, when it has jinx type thing, no one will touch it. Like, well, why didn't it get made? Why? Well, because this guy's daughter was murdered type thing.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the end of that. And then, you know, Penelope and I started a production company. We did a couple movies that, you know, I was an executive producer on, and an actor as well. And to answer your question, now that you actually asked if you prefer being on camera or not, it took me 12 minutes to get there. I always, when I was anything I did as an actor, I was always more concerned about lighting, what it looked like, what the movement was. I was always really intrigued with learning the camera, because Penelope was my partner. So it's like I could sit behind her, not just as an actor, and actually see what she was doing. And I would fight with her. So I'm like, this shot looks terrible. The lighting's horrible. This is like, this actor's supposed to look great. It's this horrible overhead lighting. So it was like, she's like, shut up. You're a fucking actor. Like, get out of here. So for me, it's like, I didn't actually realize that I think I was more suited for directing than acting. And also, even a few years earlier, I was dating an actress that was doing a movie with Guillermo del Toro in Budapest. And I sat with Guillermo for months, and he was just excited that I was excited about what he was doing. And I could ask questions and he would tell me what to do. And I don't think you can get that sort of education at NYU. You know, how many kids are coming out of NYU and getting to shadow an Academy Award winning director? You're just not. Or working with Penelope Spears, who's done, you know, huge studio comedies. So I think I absorbed a lot of stuff, actually not understanding what I was, you know, going to do later on in life type thing. And I did a lot of productions as talent or on screen, including documentaries where, you know, I was a subject. And again, I was being asked for story notes and all this kind of stuff. And again, I'm just a subject. I'm just someone. It's like someone we interviewed for Baywatch, Nicole, that were like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, what do you want the story? I mean, we're not asking the actors type thing. I mean, we're asking if they're okay with the stuff we're using of them, but we're not really asking them for story notes type thing. And these people were asking me for story notes. And not only were they asking me for them, they were using them. And it was reflective in the final product. And that's sort of when I'm like, I need to go direct something myself. And I just come off of a thing on Netflix called The American Meme with a great director, Burt Marcus. He's a very good director. He has a great infrastructure as a documentary filmmaker, has done quite a bit of stuff. And I really was more involved in that than the other cast, and because he allowed me to be. And I'm like, I think I can do what this guy does. I think I can do it. Not to say I'm better or worse or whatever, but I'm like, I think I can do what this guy does, because I really saw what was necessary to do. Granted, you know, when you're doing a film or a TV show from start to finish, there's a lot of things you don't know that you learn as you go, and you fuck up and you waste money. And, you know, it's a learning process, which we've done on Baywatch. And I had produced almost a competing film to The American Meme for Hulu called Public Figure. And it was sort of a similar storyline, but it was not as high profile as of cast members and subjects. And the guy who had done that movie contacted me because he knew I was in the other one. And he's like, hey, how do I distribute this? Like, I made this movie, but I don't know how to distribute it. And I had a relationship with the distributor, and I called and I did the distribution for him. I took no money for it. He's like, well, I'll give you a credit. I'm like, well, that's fine. You know, it was being a favor type thing. And I was flattered that the guy even contacted me, and I, you know, helped him out. And then he saw me interact with Nicole on Instagram, and he's a product of the 80s and 90s and knew exactly who Nicole was, and probably had posters of her in his room and shit like that, even though he won't ever admit to it. And he had offered me, he goes, well, the next thing I do, you know, I'll finance for you. And I'm like, cool. So he saw me interact with Nicole, and he goes, how do you know her? And I'm like, I don't actually know, but I've known her for a long time. Like, you know, it's just like, you just know people. And he goes, well, what about a Baywatch documentary? And I'm like, good fucking idea. And I contacted Nicole, and I go, Nicole, you know, we can finance this and we can do this, and you can be a producer on this. And, you know, but I can't do it on my own. I need you to help with the cast, because I don't know these people. You're the only person I know type thing. And that's sort of how we got to where we're at. And Brian Corso is the guy's name. I'm still friends with him today. He did not want to put in a large enough amount of money for what I wanted to do. And it was you know, it's a stretch. And I knew no streamer or studio or production company is going to go give me a huge chunk of money and be like, here, dude, here, Brittney Spears guy, I heard you can maybe direct. Here's a bunch of money. Good luck, type thing. So I told Brian, I go, look, man, we got to do this for more. You know, if you want to be the financier, like it's got to be more money. And I don't think he thought I had the ability to do it myself because, you know, it's always smarter to use someone else's money than your own type thing. You never let him know. Did Nicole die on us?
Her video broke out. I got a question for you from the outside, Matt, because again, I'm one of these guys that I've done TV and radio for a number of years, never did the whole broadcasting as far as from behind the scenes, the producing. So are you a critical watcher? Like, can you go to the movies? Can you watch stuff on TV and go, the sound's wrong, the lighting's wrong on everything? Like, you drive your wife crazy watching movies and TV shows?
Oh, I could bring her in here. She hates me. And the more you actually do from the production aspect, the more it's very, very difficult to watch something just for enjoyment. You're watching the setup, you're watching continuity, you're watching lighting, you're hearing bad sound or bad sound mix. You're looking at, you know, oh, that's a catalog music. They didn't use a composer. Jesus, there's no even music in this. They must have had no budget. Like you're just picking the shit out of stuff. And it's horrible. You know, and then there's stuff you see, they're like, fuck, did you hear that song? That song cost 7 figures just for that one song. You know, people don't realize.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough, but I'm more of a consumer of documentary, and I think that's one of the reasons I went into that, because it's really what interests me and it's what I watch. And subsequently the market for documentary actually became a space that is lucrative, and that's why, you know, the small filmmakers for the most part are being pushed out, and the Darren Aronofskys are doing, you know, the big stuff now. So it's a very, very competitive market. And that was one of the things I was talking with Brian about, even numbers and what to finance it for. It's like, you can't jump in the arena anymore for a little amount of money, because the production quality on some of these and the streamers are producing them from within and putting a ton of money into them. You actually can't compete anymore unless you want to throw in, you know, a good chunk of change to, you know, have the quality and have the music and have the sound and, you know, and the look that some of these documentaries are doing right now. How the original financier was really the one, it was really his idea, you know, to be honest. I mean, the story and stuff like that, you know, I formulated, but I always give Brian the credit of, you know, sort of the aha moment type thing, because, you know, for a brand as big as Baywatch, it's a really unique, it's a unique property because it's a massive brand. And maybe maybe I'll sound arrogant saying this, but I don't think they could have done it within type thing. I don't think the people that were involved with it, the actual show, could have done it for a number of reasons. One, they couldn't get financing. Two, there's too much tension between a lot of people still to this day, where if so-and-so is doing it, well, fuck them. And, oh, well, so-and-so is going to get this and I'm not getting this. So there's a lot of just built up animosity, I think. Not all, but some. And I think it took someone that really was just a total outsider, that had zero perception of any of the cast. I don't care who fucked who and who got this money and who got that money and who fucked your girlfriend, who fucked your boy. Like, I don't care.
See, that's why it's turning out so great, because they're too much in it. You know, they're too
close to it. They're too close.
Yeah, they're too close to it. And it needed that. And for you to take the time like you did to get to know everybody and their story and everything like that, they would never do that. They think they have a story on everybody, and if they don't, they make one up. And it's sort of how they roll. Yeah,
I feel like, you know, when you have these sort of legacy properties or, you know, any of that kind of stuff, the people closest to it, they know the story. It's their story, and it's going to be the same story, and it's going to be that story over and over again, and that's fine. But the real beauty of being able to self-finance something is you don't have to tell that story. And from my perspective, you know, we started this pre-pandemic. That's how long ago we started this. We started this like a couple months before the pandemic started. And then obviously we had a hiccup with the pandemic, but we only really shut down for a couple months and kept filming. Because of the pause with the pandemic, I was able to really create friendships with a lot of the cast. And with that comes trust, which many of the actors, if not all of the actors, have problems with, because I think they've been sort of exploited by the brand, not necessarily, the creators or someone or those people, but just in general being underpaid and overexposed type thing. And then, having this feeling of, okay, so I'm on this huge show and then I didn't really make any money from it. And then it almost handicapped me to get a job after because I was that dude, and for me, it's like on a micro level, I can identify with that because I was the dude in the Brittney Spears video and everyone's like, oh, fucking Brittney Spears guy. Sweet. Didn't get paid shit. Same thing, but on a micro level. I mean, these people are on, multiple seasons, multiple years of their lives. And, meeting with these people, they're very guarded. And we did the first couple rounds of interviews, and my wife actually came to one of them. My wife's younger than I am. And I take her advice always because it's always good. A lot of people that are married are like, oh, my wife doesn't know shit. My wife probably knows more than I do. And she sat, and that was the day we interviewed you first, Nicole. And it was that where we put you at the end of the day, where it was like, we were there for like 9 hours. Yeah. And we came home that day and she's like, you should be scared. And I go, why? She goes, you don't have shit. And we had already interviewed 10 people. She's like, I sat through that. Boring as fuck. Like, I don't know what you're going to cut this story together from. And, at first you're offended and you're insulted. And you're like, fuck you. And then you're like, fuck, she's right. She's right. Oh shit. What are we going to do? So, I met a couple more actors after that. And, I started calling people during the pandemic to try to, secure them to be in it. I chased Carmen Electra for like a full year, and got her. And with those conversations and with those lunches and with those Zoom calls and, turned out, I mean, I've traveled with a lot of them, I've celebrated birthdays with them. It wasn't really a business relationship anymore. It was almost like we're friends and I want you to tell my story and I trust you with my story and I'm going to tell you things I've never told anyone. And it just became really cool because these people have never trusted anyone. And it made me really careful with all of these people because, you don't know if you're going to make money on these things. Oftentimes you take a loss, Am I confident we'll make some money? Sure. But you don't know that. You could take an entire loss and, you've worked for 3 years and have a negative balance rather than being in the positive. So for me, it's like, this isn't about money, which most people are. And again, maybe I should be, and I've never been that way. I was never that way with modeling. I was never that way with acting, and I've never been that way with this. And fortunately, I have other income sources that I'm not dependent on it. So I don't have to always do the bottom line, sort of cheap, easy money route. And for me, it was like, I want to make a project that every single person that is involved in this project and every single person that's on camera is going to like what they look like and like the story that they've told, which is almost never. You're always going to find a cast member be like, well, that was fucking wrong. And they edited this and this and that. And I send cast members that we heavily feature, which no director does. I mean, Billy Warlock actually just texted me right now. And I send them stuff because I know they're really careful, and I send them stuff and they'll see stuff and, they'll be like, hey, I said fuck in this, and it sort of emphasizes, me being bitter and this and that. I don't want to sound bitter. And to me, it doesn't play that way, but to them it does. So I'll, take these notes and I'll go and I'll tell my editor who wants to murder me because I make him do this shit all the time. And I'll take that out and I'll make it play this way. And then I'll send it back to them and I'll be like, how's that? And they're like, yeah, that's perfect. Nobody does that because it's very time consuming and it's very hard to keep everyone happy. But at the end of the day, I just want everyone to really love what we did because I don't think anyone that's been involved on that show can say that about
100%. When we first started, for everybody to know, when we first started, we had, there was another co-director with Matt, and he was doing a lot of the interviewing. And after that first day, do you remember I called you and I was like, that was the worst interview like ever. Not only was I tired because we'd been shooting all day, but and then to throw me on camera, you know, I was not camera ready, and I was like, no, it was a terrible interview, and he's like feeding me lines, and it just wasn't what the project was supposed to be. So I think the pandemic was, you know, weirdly such a blessing. Yeah.
Well, when you cut out, I was telling him that we started with a second co-director because, you know, really being my first time directing, not just producing, but directing it, I felt like, you know, you don't know everything. Find someone that's done it before that you can lean on and help you. And then, you know, I told Dave that, you know, I got to a point where like nobody knows shit. Everyone is just sort of like just faking it through and telling you this and telling you that, and they don't know fucking anything. And if we're all not going to know fucking anything, I'll be the guy that it falls on because I'm the one that's name's going on it. And if it fails, it's ultimately my fault, but I'm not going to let this fail because someone else fucked it up. So, you know, no hard feelings towards that director, but I just don't think they grasped what I wanted to do. And they were really going in the direction of the same old, same old. This is the story. This is how the show was revived from, you know, network to syndication. And it was this and that. And it's all the shit we've seen and heard a million times on, you know, the Eat Your Hollywood story, this and that. And not to say that there isn't a place for that. There is a place. It's the first 10 minutes of episode 1, but we're a 4-hour long series. It's not the story, you know, right. It's how we got here. And we, you know, for me, it became less about Baywatch and more about the actors and more about their personal lives and experiences and sort of how it all comes full circle to their experience on the show. And it's really, you know, it's really, I gotta say, I actually get like choked up when I talk about it because some of the actors really went through and are going through really hard shit. So it's tough.
Let me ask you. I think generally also that's why there's usually only one director because it's hard to share a vision with somebody. You have to be really, really close, I think, with somebody, you know, in life to share the same vision to do a project like that together.
Well, I mean, I had a hard time because I was the youngest. And I'm not that young, you know, either, but I was the youngest of all the producers and directors involved. So it's like, here I am paying for this shit and I'm getting like bossed around by technically employees. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, no, like I'm asking you to do something, please do it. And if you don't, I'm going to fire you. And I don't think anyone thought I was going to do that. Even Ari, who I've known for 15 years, who was my co-writer on that social media movie, who came from MTV. He was a creator of Pimp My Ride. That's how I knew Ari Shofut, who's the other executive producer. He'd never seen me be an asshole because I'm pretty calm. But when you start to like back me in a corner and question me, we were on the phone with that director's manager, who was actually the guy that introduced me to Ari years ago. Used to be Ari's manager. And when we told him we were going to let the other director go, he arrogantly goes, well, you guys can't do this. You'll never do this on. You don't know how you don't know how to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I go, Mark, fucking watch me. And I just hung up and left Ari on the phone with him. Ari's like, holy shit, dude. He goes, you're scary. And I go, yeah, because I'm not going to get bullied by these people. It's like, you know, it's like, I'm paying for this. Like, this is a huge risk for me. And it's going to be my one and only shot. If this fails, I better go find something else to do. And if it succeeds, I'm going to get more opportunities out of it. So I'm not going to let someone else fuck this up for me. And I think it was the right decision. And it, you know, unfortunately,
100% was the right decision. 1,000% was the right decision.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the project took longer because of it. I mean, we also hired a new editor that, you know, cost us $100,000 and he pretended he was editing when he didn't do shit. And hid behind COVID, saying he couldn't see us or we couldn't come see what it's because he has a child and they don't want the kid to have COVID. So that we got scammed out of $100,000 from that guy and lost 7 months. And the $100,000 doesn't bother me. The 7 months bothers me. So I mean, like I said, it's like it's a huge learning curve. But this guy was given to us by Amazon, you know, a highly rated editor, and this guy just totally fucked me. But you learn. And I don't forget. And now I'm on a podcast, and I hope he listens to it. So
what's his name?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. But
so let me ask you, perceptions, you know, reality for everyone in life. So when you guys are working on this documentary, Is there anything that shocked you, Nicole or Matt, that you said, man, I didn't see it that way, especially you, Nicole, who was on set, to say, man, I didn't see it that way, but this is what they were actually going through, that you said, man, that's the one thing I took home going, man, I didn't realize that's what that person was going through, or that's not how I saw things.
Nicole, you can jump in on that.
I mean, yes and no. It's interesting because for the actors that did open up and give their stories, some of them I already knew the story, and some of them, I didn't. And yeah, it was like, oh, wow. And then other ones, it was sort of like the same story over and over again, that you've heard a million times. So yeah, there's a really mixed bag of some really interesting life experiences that people went through. And yeah, it's really good. It's, nobody's ever showcased the actors like this. So it really makes them human and really sort of relatable and cool. And it's shot cool and it looks cool. And Baywatch never did, it looked cool, but it was for that time, and everything all the press that came along with Baywatch was always, forgive me, but kind of cheesy. And it always had that cheese factor to it. So to see it in a more serious light is just, it's really fantastic. It's a special thing.
Yeah, we when we started this, I always had a really specific vision for it. I mean, I've lived in LA for almost 24 years now. I'm a beach guy, surf, and surf culture and surf the sort of the look and the feel of surf photography and cinematography was really important to me. And I really wanted the stories to be great stories, but I wanted the visuals to look like some of these amazing surf films. And to Ari's credit, I showed him different movies that were HBO, because HBO Sports really does the best sort of like water and action photography and stuff like that. And I want it to look like this. So everything we wanted to look like, we just looked up who did it, and we just hired them. So we hired all of HBO Sports guys in Hawaii, and we hired the best water cinematographers, and we really just made it look cool. And my lead DP, Miles, used to work for Surfer Magazine. So he's in that world, and he actually became one of our editors at the same time, because he shot a lot of the stuff. So obviously he's very privy to all the story and stuff we shot, because he's there. He doesn't have to absorb the material afterwards, because a lot of these editors we give this stuff to, we have 57 interviews. We have probably 1,000 hours of archive videotapes and God knows what else from like 10 of the actors. So there's like, I don't know how many thousands of hours. Then there's B-roll that we shot at least 2 hours of each actor of B-roll. So they open up this file and they see all this shit and they're like, where do I begin? I mean, I write out the story. I give them a story, just like a scripted thing. Like, this is the actor, this is the A storyline, this is the B storyline, this is the cliffhanger. But a lot of these people were just, when they get the shit, they'd be like, they would start and then they would panic and they're like, I don't think I can do this. It's just too much. And Miles really jumped in, because Miles knew the story and he shot 90% of the story. So he's like, I can do this. I know the questions you ask. I know, what you're getting at with these people, I know. And he's really been a lifesaver for us. And he's got a great career with us, because he's got paid more than anybody, because he's been editing for eight months now. So I don't think he ever wants this shit to end, because he's like, this is awesome. I don't have to try to get work. I just get to sit at home and edit and watch Baywatch and go through people's archives and look at cool shit. Like, this is awesome. So he's totally stoked on the whole thing. And I love Miles, and I hope we get to do another thing with him, because he actually just called me, because he has to call me 9 times a day. He was just calling me a second ago. So, that's my wife, I got married 4 years ago, right when we started this project. And she's like, I fucking hate Baywatch. Our entire marriage has been Baywatch. I never want to hear Baywatch. I never want to hear that fucking song ever again. Like, this has become a long thing, type thing. It's really become a life thing. And, I sort of think to myself, it's like, I've been engrossed with actors from 11 seasons for 4 years. And that's more than almost all of the actors were even on the show. They were 2-3 years, and that was it. And then, there's Jeremy, Mike Newman, and Hasselhoff that, did the whole shebang, but that was it. So it's like, my experience with this show is almost similar to being one of the cast members now, because of just the sheer amount of time I've spent on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know more about Baywatch than I would like to know.
Yeah.
But it's cool. And, you know, again, full circle, you know, the first job was with Pam Anderson. As a teenager, you know, it was like Baywatch was an interesting show. And I think even some of the people we interviewed said the same thing. Like no one really watched Baywatch start to finish. It wasn't like a show you had to watch to stay in the story. Like, oh, what's going to happen next? Is Mitch going to, you know, fight an octopus? You know, is Pam's boobs going to get bigger? And, you know, like no one, it wasn't really like one of those things. But it was on in the background and you would always see it and be like, oh, dude, that guy's fucking ripped. That makes me feel insecure. Oh, that chick's hot. I'll never get that chick. You know, so it was one of those things. It was sort of a barometer of beauty. And it was a barometer of cool in the beginning. It got corny as years went on because I think they sort of, what's the term, jumped the shark as years went on. So, you know, for me, it influenced me to become a lifeguard. I was a open water lifeguard, and I will 1000% say I only did that because of Baywatch. And when I was a little kid, my older brother's friends used to make fun of me and they used to call me Hobie. And then as I got older and was an actual, you know, open water lifeguard, you know, all of us had nicknames of the cast. And I was Logan because I had long blonde hair. So I was Jason Simmons. I was Logan. So it was sort of a weird thing to, you know, come full circle to actually be working with these people and, you know, knowing them personally. And, you know, as time goes on, you know, fame is diluted and people forget and that kind of thing, but it's not really lost on me. Sort of like you with Nicole and working with Nicole. It's like, sometimes when I get frustrated with shit, it's like, when you were 16, did you ever think that you would know all of these people and have them on speed dial and be able to talk to them at a click of a finger type thing? It's kind of cool. You know, it's really your childhood coming full circle, which is, you know, sort of how I wanted the audience to view this. It's like, what does the consumer want to know? Like, what does the consumer of the show want to know? Not what do the creators want you to know, or what do the cast members want you to know? It's sort of like, it kind of comes from place, what did I want to know? And then, you know, people would give me stories. A lot of the stuff that really came was like off-camera stories, because I'd hang out with the actors before I put them on camera. Like we went to Telluride with Billy Warlock. I skied with him a whole day. So you spend a whole day in a gondola and a chairlift and you talk and he says stuff. And then he'll say stuff that he would never say on camera and you would never remember to ask him. And then you're like, hey, remember that. And then you bring that question up the next day. And that's how you get the really good stuff. And, you know, Mike Newman has become literally like a dad. I mean, I see Mike 4 or 5 days a week. I always laugh that, you know, my best friend's like a 69-year-old dude, you know. So it's cool. It's a very cool experience. You know, Jeremy and I have become very close. Jason Simmons and I have become very close. David Chokachi lives, you know, down the street. I'll probably see him when I go get coffee after I get off the phone with you guys. So it's just a really cool experience. You know, you can bitch about it. It gets frustrating, and, you know, nothing ever goes as smoothly as you think it's going to go. But as a whole, I mean, I don't think I'll ever recreate this experience or this project in my life. But this is like, for lack of being crass, you blew your load. Like this is it. You can't recreate this. It's sort of, you know, I think Jeremy even is quoted saying it about the show. It's lightning in a bottle. It's a one in a lifetime, you know, sort of experience. Like I've had calls from people being like, oh, there's going to be a competing project. And I just go, good fucking luck, because none of these people are going to talk to you. And any of the people that are going to talk to you don't have the story. And the people that have the story, they're not going to trust you with the story, and they're not going to talk to you. So good luck with that. You know, hope it comes out well. And we're done, and you haven't even started. So, you know,
yeah,
congrats.
There's that. Yeah, there's that
So
part. I'm writing a book. I'm gonna write a book, and it's gonna be called "How Can I Be Matt?"
Yeah.
How can I be Matt? A day in the life of Matt. I'm just gonna follow you around.
I mean, my life is pretty cool.
Like this golden life. Like, I'll just go to LA from Wisconsin. It's on set with Pamela Anderson, Rachel.
It's, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, you know, managing your expectations, like unfulfilled expectations. And again, I was one of those people too, where, you know, and hopefully this project solidifies sort of my life belief and motto is like, if I can't be the best, I don't want to do it. Like, I got real far in the modeling world. I did a lot of big stuff, but I wasn't the best. I'm like, oh, fuck this. I'm done with this. I can't be the best. And I'm too old now. So whatever. then I sort of saw acting, and I did some cool things, but if those projects don't really make you explode in your early 30s, it's kind of game over. It's a trajectory. You have to build it, and that's it. And, you know, you do a couple Lifetime movies and Hallmark movies, you're like, fuck. No offense to people that do that. That's not acting for me. You know, if you can't be at that top, I'm just not interested, you know. And it's the same thing, you know, with this project. And I truly think, and this is going to be a bold statement, I truly think we can win awards with this. And I don't think anyone has ever mentioned Baywatch and critical acclaim in the same word. I truly think that. And I had a producer on this who's a business partner in our production company, Antisocial Hero. And I always thought he was kidding. He goes, dude, you're going to win, because it was a movie at first. You know, you're going to win an Academy Award for this. You're going to win an Emmy for this. I'm like, Drew, it's fucking Baywatch. It's never going to happen. He goes, no, dude, it's going to happen. And then I showed him the sales reel, and he's like, told you, it's going to happen. And I go, and you know, we had a couple guys. A guy that did our main titles is, you know, they do like the big Disney movies, and, you know, they're a huge company. They're a huge spend too. He's a Emmy judge, and he goes, get your speech ready. This is really good. He goes, it's that good. And I, you know, you can cheerlead it all day long yourself, and people are like, yeah, asshole, it's your project. Of course you think it's good. Yeah, it's great. But when you're hearing it from outside people that normally aren't giving you any praise, or it's really hard to get praise from, and they're like, this is really exceptionally good. And even if you don't,
it really is. And the thing is I can't wait for people to see it, because I don't know about you, but when people say, what's the documentary on? And you're like, it's on Baywatch, you know, you get this look of like,
yeah, but that's the beauty of when we you know, we talked about, you were talking to me about this when we broke up, and like, you know, is it really cool to surprise yourself, you know, and what you can achieve and what you can accomplish. And that's cool. I think that what's even cooler is to surprise other people. You know, when you're the dude in the Brittney Spears video, the expectations are really fucking low. And I love that. So to have really low expectations. And so, I mean, I just moved out of a house in the Valley, and I'm living in Malibu now. And even a friend of mine, he, you know, came out of the house, was like grabbing clothes and stuff I just want to get rid of and shit like that. And he goes, dude, your life in the last like 5 years, you get married, you've bought 3 houses and moved subsequently from here to here, and now you're living in fucking Malibu. The Baywatch documentary, it's like, dude, you're like, you made it, bro. Like, and this is someone that would never say this to you. And, you know, I haven't made it, because I'll have made it when we have a definitive sale, and it's, you know, a trade release, and we have the streamer, you know, there, and it's, you know, the big aha moment, and then to ultimately have it perform well. So, but to even get this, so I got Jason Simmons, Billy Warlock, and my, so yeah. So it's just, you know, I'm not there yet. You know, I don't want to, you know, get ahead of myself, but I'm proud of everyone that has been a part of this, because it's not easy. It's very easy to get fatigued. And, you know, there are a couple times you know, I've been so frustrated with people trying to undermine me, people trying to, you know, screw the project up, or sabotage it, or try to like bring some competing project out, which, you know, regardless, none of it matters, because I think the project speaks for itself and it's strong enough, but it gives you anxiety constantly. And it's like, my wife will see my phone go off, and it's something related to Baywatch. She's like, you immediately change, and you get antsy, and you get aggro, and you just become a different person. And it's just because you've spent so much time, energy, and actually care about the people in the project, that when someone tries to fuck it up, it's like someone trying to fuck your family up, and like, I will kill you. Like, don't even fucking try. I will fucking kill you. And it's a very similar feeling. Like, these people become very, very close and family. And I mean, I'll be friends with all these people for the rest of my life. I mean, I'll most definitely be the friends with these people for the rest of my life. So it's been a very rewarding experience, at the same time as difficult, and sometimes aggravating and anxiety driven. And then, you know, this project went from a feature film to you know, a 4-part series, which, you know, as a producer, becomes 4 times the post-production cost. Yeah. So, you know, what we were initially budgeted for was not what this became. So you're constantly like, okay, how much do you believe in this project? How much do you believe in yourself? Because what you're about to put in, you have the ability, if you fail, you're going to lose it. So there's consequences for me, there's not as big a consequences for the cast, and not to, make them, smaller portion. It's just that, the worst thing that can happen to them is that it just doesn't do anything. And it doesn't, none of them look bad. Everyone looks.
No, it's not going to be bad for anybody in it.
Everyone looks great. I think we made a really conscious effort to make everyone 3-dimensional characters rather than these 2D, like, oh, how did you get so ripped? What did you do to tan? How many sit-ups did you do? Did you have to starve yourself? Oh, so-and-so did a bunch of cocaine. So-and-so fucked so-and-so, and this one fucked that one. And then, it's just, it's boring. Even Pamela Anderson, who did her own thing from the beginning, I never thought her story was it. I think it's part of it. I mean, I think it's a small portion. I mean, she was a huge star. She was, she's very synonymous with Baywatch. She was very synonymous with that look of Baywatch and sort of the 90s zeitgeist. But the whole sex tape thing and all that kind of stuff, it was like, fucking cares. You get to a point where it's like, yeah, we know you guys had sex with a lot of people. It's cool. It's what you should be doing in your 20s. That's the goal. Like, you want to have sex with a lot of people, and then you type thing. You got married at 19, so no, you lost out on it. But you're probably better off for it.
Never went to a bar.
Well, you're better than us.
I'm living through you, Matt. I'm living through you.
Yeah. So it's one of the things that the low-hanging fruit story that I feel everyone assumed this was going to be never interest me from day one. And everyone sort of got up my ass for that. And then they did that whole Pam and Tommy series. I'm like, there it is. There's a story. It's done. And it's done by Megan Ellison, who wins Academy Awards and Emmys. And it's got, a $20 million music soundtrack and huge actors. And it's 10 episodes about a sex tape. There it is. We don't need to touch it anymore. It's done. It's been done. And then Pam did her own thing. It's been done. It's like you want your own story. There you go. But it was really interesting because I had talked to her and through other people through her, and they are always in this sort of tunnel vision that it's about them and their story. And, it's not really about anyone's individual story. This was a show that had like 70 cast members, and it was a revolving door. It's a Pamela Anderson was the be all end all for people from like 94 to 96. Nicole is the be all end all from people from like 92 to 94. And then it's really, I equate the audience for Baywatch as sort of where you were in high school and like early college. And depending on what age you are with that is sort of who the people you followed on that show, if you followed the show at all. So it was never really like, oh, it's all about Nicole. Oh, it's all about Pam. Oh, it's all about David. It's all about this. It's such a, a multi-person story that it was really hard to tell these people that, have been told by media and been told by their agents and their family and their friends that it's all about you. Baywatch is you. It's all you. Well, no, it's not. You're a big part of it, but it's everybody. And that was sort of the really cool thing that I saw, is that a lot of the actors that had been slighted fame-wise, press-wise, or just even cast are the people that actual audience loved. Like Mike Newman was, he was on all 11 seasons. He was the real lifeguard. We have an Instagram page that I started from the beginning that I think is about 100,000 followers, which is pretty good for, a non, actual Baywatch site, just a documentary site. And every single person would email like, Numi's my hero. Numi's my best friend. Numi's, I want to be like Numi. Numi's rad. Numi's this, Numi's that. And I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy, because no one really paid attention to him on the show. He was just the dude with a mustache that everyone made fun of him because he was bald, because for whatever reason you couldn't be bald in the 90s. Whereas now it's like everyone's bald and it doesn't matter. So it was interesting to see these characters that were slighted that had a really large fan base. And I really saw those actors had the best personal stories for whatever reason. Some of it's tragic, but they were the most evolved people, because, I mean, Nicole, when you're like a hot person, not to say that this, pertains to you, but when a lot of these really hot chicks and hot guys, they never really have to evolve. because they can just scoot around being like, oh, I'm the hot guy, I'm the hot. And they never really evolve into like introspective people. They never think about, because they just, shit's given to them because they're good looking.
Yeah, their life is easy. Yeah.
And the media is perpetuating it. So it's like, now you're famous and you're good looking, and, you know, shit's given you for free, and, oh, you come to this and come to that. But the people that sort of got that roadblock or weren't skating by on their looks or their fame really had to do work on themselves, and they were really introspective on their lives and sort of where they came, and, you know, where they've been, and sort of ultimately where they ended up, and recreating themselves outside of being an actor, you know. And I think Nicole, I don't want to give away the movie, but Nicole has some really great sound bites about, you know, being an actor, and it, you know, it's sometimes just a small portion of your life, and sometimes it's a career. And, you know, the media and social media and all that kind of stuff is really cruel to actors, because they think when they're not acting or working anymore, that they're somehow a failure. Not because that, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. Maybe I wanted to become a real estate agent. Maybe I wanted to be a mom. Maybe I, you know, wanted to, you know, move to Telluride like Billy Warlock did and say, fuck it, and I'm done with this. So it's always perceived as failure, which I wanted to emphasize that it's not failure. It's reinventing yourself and doing other things in life. The person you are at 20 is not the person you are at 30, and the person you're at 30 is not the person you are at 40. You know, you guys know, people that knew you in your
conversation. We had this conversation because it's true, and you change in your life, and other things interest you, and maybe you go back to it, maybe you don't. Like, people don't get it, and people also don't get it that it doesn't necessarily pay all your bills. You know what I mean? So it's like, people have to have other jobs. You know, it's
fame and wealth is not synonymous, which people don't realize.
Yeah,
it's often not. I mean, it's very rare that it is, and, you know, it ends for everyone eventually. It just depends on, can you make enough money and the good enough investments that you can skate it out. And, you know, the industry has changed even more, with the amount of money that you're being paid is, you know, a fifth of, you know, what it was, you know, in your guys', you know, heyday type thing.
Yeah.
You know, actors were making good money. I mean, I'm sure you made good money on Charles in Charge. It was a network show. I'm sure you're making great money. But it's not the same anymore. You know, and I don't like, you know, actors that, you know, are thought of as failures, and it you know, it gets to them, and it can't not, because, you know, media is cruel, and people on social media are even crueler, because for whatever reason, there are very few people that are wired to say anything positive. It's always, you know, let's pick on their appearance, or let's pick on, you know, their lack of success as an actor as they're older, and like, oh, you're a has-been or washed up or this and that. It's like, no, I was an actor for 25 years, and I was on 2 big TV shows, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I had 2 kids. You know, I'm speaking for you, Nicole. You know, it's like, people are really fucking rude to you online, and it's like, for what? It's just like, you don't know my life. You don't know what I've been through. You don't, and none of you will ever accomplish or do what I've done. Yet, you know, you try to diminish it just to, you know, maybe make yourself feel better. But
yeah, I know. Whenever someone says has been, and I'm in my head, I always go, and you never was.
Yeah. I mean, it's the truth. It's like, I don't know. And I think social media in general has diminished fame because it's made people think it's so easily attainable now. And it is. If you want to be like an OnlyFans chick, or, you know, post pictures of your butt all day long, yeah, sure, you can be famous in that stratospheric world. But the problem is I don't think there is a barometer of fame anymore. Like, an OnlyFans girl is, you know, an A-list actor. They sort of all cross blend now, like, who's who. Oh, it's just, well, everyone knows who she is. Or, I mean, look at Logan and Jake Paul. Yeah, they're more famous than actors that are on, you know, major TV shows and movies. More people know who Logan Paul is than Taron Egerton, you know. And it's just, it's kind of fucked up, you know, in my opinion. But that's where we are in society. So, you know, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not an actor anymore, because I just think it's hard. It's too hard, and it's too hard to fight. Like, okay, I'm out here like trying to be a good actor and study and do all the right things, and here's some jerk off, you know, posting pictures of himself without a shirt on, who's making money just being a jagoff. You know, it's like, what's the payoff for me? You know? So it's you know, back in, you know, when I was a kid, there was a handful of actors that everyone knew who was. And, there's the TV actors, there were the movie actors, and that was it, and then there were soap actors. And then, if you could move up in the chain, you would, but it was a very elite club that was very hard to get into. And, if you made it, you made it, and that was it. And you were in that scene, you were in that club, Nicole.
Yeah. It's very different now. And it's, the platform is so much bigger.
Yeah.
But times change. It is what it is. But I'm really glad I got to take this ride with you. It's
not over. It's just about to get more fun.
I know. I'm happy to be on the ride. It's one I'm not jumping off of.
Yeah, we're gonna do the fun stuff soon. Soon the press and the promotion, all that kind of stuff. That's where it's gonna get fun. Right now, the post is tedious. We're sort of in the final stages of post with music and licensing.
Yeah, it's fun to see it all come together. It's really I'm finding the whole entire process really fun.
Nicole's been my hardest critic, because when I had other people involved and I would send her stuff, she'd be like, "This sucks," and I'd be like, and then she'd be like, "This is terrible." What was your rule? This ain't it. And I'm like, but she was right. She was right. It was one of those things where I wanted to think it was great, but I knew it wasn't. And we did a sales reel about a month ago, and I sent it to Nicole, and it was the first time I did get one bad note. Not one. Not one. And I saw that for the first time as it was completed, because we worked on it for a while, and I had to give a lot of notes to get it to where it was. And I literally cried, and I sat up and I just was clapping for myself like a moron, because it was the first time I had seen something that we had done that actually reflected what I had in my brain of what it wanted to look like. And, I think we got it there. And I think Nicole is, if Nicole's happy, I'm happy, because Nicole is a very hard judge of quality, and she has no problem telling you when it sucks. She won't be like, yeah, maybe change this. Like, this is fucking bad. Like, no. This ain't it. That's the thing. This ain't it. This ain't it. This ain't it. And I'm like, okay. But it's it. I got there. It's it.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. And it's all worth it. It's all worth it, because it's something to be proud of in the end.
Yeah, my biggest fear, just in closing this whole conversation, because we've been on for a while, is when it's over, it's like, I think there's going to be a huge, it's like when you're on a TV show or a movie or whatever, when it's done and you sort of say goodbye to the cast, like the last day, like, oh, Nicole's wrapped, type thing. It's a weird sort of sadness, because if you've been in the business for a while, you have to make a huge effort to stay in touch with these people.
Yeah.
Because your commonality is this job and this work and that kind of thing. So I think I'll have like a weird sort of depression when it's all over, because it's like, okay, now what? What do I do now? Because again, I just, I've had friends even tell me the same thing after they've seen some of the stuff we filmed and done. They're like, you're never going to be able to recreate this, just so you know. You're never going to do something like this again. And it's true. I don't think I will. I think it's like,
I don't know. Never say never, my friend.
I don't know. If I peak with Baywatch, which sounds funny, I'm okay with that. I can go do other things. I have a great life. And even, I think I was going to say this earlier and I got trailed off, is a lot of times I'll get super frustrated with this shit. And, my wife will just be irritated with me because I'm an asshole, because I'm just angry and just, irritated. And I'm like, you know what? I can just throw this whole fucking thing in the garbage and it doesn't matter. And I'll just waste the money and fuck everybody and this and that. And then a lot of the people that have just the most heart-wrenching stories, I'm like, I gotta finish it for them type thing. Like, it's weird. Like what pushes me through, and I don't even want to tell you the stories that do push me through, because it'll give the actual series away. But there are certain people that have such intense, heartbreaking stories that if I fuck it up or don't finish it or fail, it'll really let them down. So that's sort of what keeps me, pushing through to the finish line on this.
Yeah, you're on the hook.
Yeah, Matt, thank you so much, man. That was awesome. I appreciate your time. That was. I
feel like I'm the only jerk that talked though, but I guess it's all right.
No, that's what you're the guest. That's what you're supposed to do. You're the guest, and I'm just dying to watch you go back. Yeah, I'm dying to watch you go back to Wisconsin and say Hobie turned out okay.
Hobie did it. Yeah, it's funny. The guy that used to call me Hobie is a doctor now, and he was out here in Malibu vacationing, and I showed him the shit, and he's like, "Dude, this is crazy." Like, this is just fucking crazy. Because I used to call you Hobie when you were like 7. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, do you see Hobie now? He's jacked. He's like, Jesus, that's Jeremy. I go, yeah, that's Jeremy. So, yeah. So I mean, all in all, it's been good. But I can, if Nicole gives me your email and stuff, I'll send you our sales reel and stuff. They're all unexpired. You can actually see what it looks like.
Oh, that's
so I don't
awesome.
just talk a bunch of shit about how great it is. You can actually see it.
I'm sure it's going to be great. I know Nicole's a killer too. So if she's critical and you listen to what she said, I know it's going to be great as well. But Matt, for me, just I'm telling you, as a person that's watching always from the outside and was a fan of the show, and again, I admire the fact that you joked about music videos, but you made it even there. I thought it was cool. I was very excited to listen to you, and I appreciate your time.
Well, I'm glad someone's excited to talk to the Brittney Spears guy, because I got a letter from ABC News. I did a thing from 2020, and they sent me like archives back, and it was on the ABC letterhead. It said "toxic guy." You know, they just doesn't matter. It'll follow me forever. It's like, it's like Jeremy Hobie his whole life. It's gonna happen. I think Jeremy said that he made a comment, and I don't think this will make the cut because I just don't think it's going to be in there. So I can spoil it for you guys. He goes, when I was a drug addict and I used to pick up drugs, the drug dealer used to play the Baywatch theme song as I walked in to buy drugs. That's how much people fucked with me. And so, it could be worse.
That's amazing. Oh my God, that's a great story.
Jeremy, your mom won't appreciate me telling that.
Matt, thank you so much, bud. Appreciate it.
Guys. Okay. Thanks, Nicole.
Hi, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Take care. So Nicole, that was a lot of fun. I know we went a little bit long. Do you want to save the questions for next week, the mailbag, or do you want to knock a couple out? What would you like to do? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just do a couple, and then we'll save them.
We'll throw a couple at you real quick. Okay. Caitlin Ramsey says, again, you can ask questions, Nicole, at any time. Just go to the website again, perfectlytwistedpod.com. Look at the mailbag, and you can write questions. I'll just pull them out and surprise her. First one's from Caitlin Ramsey. It says, "What made you go and decide to be part of the movie Baywatch Wedding after leaving the show?"
Well, to be completely honest, because it was shooting in Hawaii, and for me, whenever I'd be freezing on the beach shooting, I was always like, why are we not doing this in Hawaii? Why are we here in Southern California? So for me, it was like that opportunity to get to do the show in Hawaii in warm water and tropical beaches. So it was sort of a dream, for me. Baywatch hitting Hawaii, it's something I always wanted to do.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't blame you at all. All right. Calvin Spiker mentions, Nicole, is there any way to order your autograph through the mail?
Yes, you can. I have the email address on all my social media posts. It's happyhour9807@gmail.com, and they will they'll get back to you and let you know how it goes and how the process happens.
There you go. Okay, last one I'm asked for the day, and I promise we'll get to more of them on the next show. Shad Jones writes, "Is The Color Purple still one of your favorite movies, and why?"
Oh my God! You know what? It's so funny. When I was a kid, you would like Teen Beat and Tiger Beat and all these boppy magazines would have you fill out like a questionnaire. And if you know me, I don't have favorites of anything. Like, I'm not into like one thing. Like, how could you do that? How can you just love one thing? So it would say like, what's your movie? And I had just seen The Color Purple. So I was right. And it was a great movie. So I wrote it, but it's followed me my whole life. It has followed me, and people. So yes, it's still a great movie. Yes, I love it. Is it my favorite movie? I don't have a favorite movie. I'm not big on favorites.
I understand. Yeah, for me, it's all over the place. I'm with you. I usually like movies that get emotion out of you, but man, I always say the movie that I won't change the channel if it's on, and like Goodfellas, Shawshank, all those are movies I don't change the channel. But at the same time, I love Wedding Crashers, old school. I like it, things that make me laugh. Yeah, 16 Candles, like we talked about. Yes. Absolutely.
And I get it that some people do, and like they'll like have a favorite song and play it over and over and over again. That's just never been me. I can't do that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Nicole, that was a longer pod than we normally do, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So So
I think
we'll be
every guy
back.
wants to be Matt, by the way.
Oh, who doesn't? You kidding me?
I mean,
Living in Malibu?
oh,
Not too bad.
everybody
Little
wants to be
kid,
Matt. Girls too. I
little
want
kid
to
from
be Matt.
Wisconsin worked out okay. Worked out
I
okay for
mean,
him.
yeah, poor guy, right?
Poor guy. All right. So
Okay.
again, this was episode 5. We'll be back next time then.
See you next week.